All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with another fight breakdown. I'm sorry, I'm laughing, man. I really don't know who I'm picking for this fight. I have to be completely real with you guys. Oh man, Hamzah Sheeraz is gonna be facing Edgar Berlanga here in New York, Saturday, July 12th. And this is going to be a pay-per-view, but this is an excellent card, so I'm not going to complain too much. I don't know why everything's a pay-per-view, but it is what it is. But great fight, and there's no title or anything like that. You know, both of these guys, I feel like, this is the main event of the fight. I feel like Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda should definitely be the main event. But I think this is the most intriguing fight because of both of these guys have been in fights where you're just like, I don't know how good they really are. I really don't know. And we come across a lot of these fights, but it's dead even when it comes to, like, when I'm not talking their skill set, just their skill set, but I'm talking about just the way they look in certain fights. You got one guy in Edgar, and I'm just gonna get straight into it, right? Hamzah Sheeraz, he's moving up to 168 for the first time in this fight. All right, in his career, he's been boxing for about 8 years now. He's 26 years old. Okay, he's still undefeated. I don't think he should be, but we'll get to that. And this is his first fight moving up to 168. And Edgar Berlanga is a career 168 pounder. He's 28 years old. He went on a nice little 16 KO streak in the first round thing. And then they started putting him in there with some stiffer competition where he was forced to box a little bit. And then he started going the distance. He got dropped a couple of times. He got fights where he got caught some good shots. So you got two fighters that you just really not sure. Like, I don't trust neither one of them. I don't really know where to go. I remember when the fight got announced, right? And I think I did a live, or I did a video on these two. And I was pretty much leaning towards Berlanga, because even though I wasn't sure on these two, at least I can see where, Berlanga at least been in there with Canelo, right? So I was like, all right, even though hasn't looked that impressive, at least he fought Canelo. He went the distance with Canelo. I think he might have won like 2 rounds of the fight, right? Where maybe in the second half where Canelo like slowed down a little bit. And at least with him, I seen him get knocked down. I seen him get back up. I seen him take a lot of right hands and body shots from Canelo throughout the fight. And he seemed to still like do well. Like, he didn't get knocked down anymore. It was a clear win for Canelo, but at least he did better than what I expected to, because I thought he was just going to get knocked out by Canelo, right? But at the same time, I don't want to judge a fighter based solely on how he looks against Canelo, right? Because Canelo fights certain guys, and especially in recent years, where they've gone the distance with him, but then they end up getting knocked out in their very next fight, or maybe shortly after they start falling off a little bit. I don't want to base it on that. Plus, I do think that Canelo is slowing down. I think he's been slowing down for the last few years. So with that being said, I don't want to base it solely off that. So when it comes to Edgar Berlanga, right? Strengths, weaknesses. Well, I would give him the slight edge in experience, only because he's been in there with Canelo. But for the most part, outside of Canelo, they've been fighting guys at the same level for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, he's fought Steve Rolls, he's fought McRory, he fought Jason Quigley. Like, he's fought some guys that's pretty decent, right? He did get knocked down by Caceres, who was a good fighter. I'll say Caceres is a good boxer, because I seen him fight Billy Joe Saunders years ago, and I remember when Saunders was losing that fight. I think he was definitely losing that fight, and he actually stopped Caceres at some point. But Berlanga has been fighting solid opponents like Steve Rose. Like, he's been fighting some guys that he's gone the distance with, right? Gave him some trouble, or whatever. And what I think is wrong with Berlanga a little bit, I think the first, most importantly, is that he kind of loses control sometimes. I've seen him throw elbows. I've seen him give headbutts. I've seen him, he got suspended for biting somebody. I think he loses his head. I think even in the Canelo fight, right? It's this points of the fight where he was talking trash to Canelo, but he would just drop his hands and just say whatever he felt like saying. Mentally, he's a little crazy. You know what I mean? I thought he was just like a typical guy from New York, like Puerto Rican guy, kid from New York. But I actually listened to his story. I think he was being interviewed by Showbiz. Shout out to Showbiz. Showbiz did an interview with both of these guys. And I think he started going into like his upbringing. I didn't know like all the stuff he went through growing up, and it makes a lot of sense the way he is. I know a lot of people don't understand, but going from shelter to shelter, different boroughs and stuff like that. He's just not gonna be the most classiest guy because of the way he is. With that being said, also think that even though he's been a lot more patient over the years, being more patient and relying on his boxing has exposed how kind of limited he could be, as a boxer. I don't think he's a great defender. I think he's decent. I think he's improving with his fights. But there's not much consistency in this fight. His punch output is kind of low. I know he relies a lot off countering. But I think when he stepped up, his power hasn't looked as devastating as it once did. I know recently he knocked out this guy from Puerto Rico that didn't fight for like 10 years, but he was undefeated. Now, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about some of those other guys I brought up, their names I brought up before. The power is there for sure. And he's a really big dude at the 168. I mean, the way he looked against Canelo, I mean, he had to at least be 200 pounds. You know what I mean? But defensively, he's okay. Mentally, he's a little bit all over the place, right? He's explosive. He does have power. I think he's becoming a little bit more patient and fighting a little bit smarter. But I still feel like he's a little bit limited as a fighter, I think his best punch is like, I want to say it's like an overhand right. It's not. It's more like a cross over the jab counter. I think that's his best punch. It's more like a corkscrew like right backhand that he throws over the jab. That counter is his best punch for sure. And I think if he stops Shiraz or hurts Shiraz or drops him in this fight, it's probably going to be for the right hand. Left hook. The left hook is actually his biggest weakness because even though he likes to throw it, and I'm sure he has a lot of power behind it, that's where he's the worst defensively. Like I seen Caceres catch him, drop him while he was throwing the left hook, and the huge punch that he got caught and hurt by Caceres earlier in the fight was from the same point where he was throwing the left hook. When he throws the left hook, he throws it very wide, leaves himself totally exposed, and he's there to get countered. I know Caceres countered with 2 right crosses right behind the left hook. It was behind the left hook. And both shots, one of them dropping him, the other one had him like hurt. So I think the right hand over the jab is his money punch for Shiraz. I've seen Shiraz get caught with that shot. I seen him walk into it and get dropped early in his career when he got dropped by what's the gentleman's man, Francisco Torres. It was a flash knockdown. It was a hard knockdown or anything like that. But that's the money shot for Edgar Berlanga, in my opinion. I think talent-wise overall, I think more when it comes to ability overall, I will have to go with Hamzah Sheeraz. But I think, there's certain tools that Edgar could do, especially like trying to hurt Shiraz, that'll work out for him. Shiraz, on the other hand, he had the height and the reach. We know he was very tall, being 6'4", fighting at 154 at one point, 160 as well, recent years. Tall, rangy, has very quick hands, puts his punches together very well. Fights tall, like I've said in previous breakdowns I've done, fights very tall. What I mean by that is he's straight up. He's not like bending the waist or bending the knees to get lower to his opponents. He's not trying to meet you and have eye contact with you. No, he's straight up. And it could be an issue, depending on the fighter he's coming in. And I don't think Shiraz has the greatest inside game, but on the outside, I think he has a very good one too. He has very good quick hands, and the way he throws his hooks, very powerful, sharp, quick. Right cross, very sharp, quick. Even though he has long arms, he's able to still catch his opponents with short shots, especially when they're like in the mid range. I think mid range, long range is his sweet spot. I think close range, he just usually just goes into a high guard or tries to tie up. Doesn't have much there offensively, close range. He's not bad. He can still throw, but I think that's not where he really wants to be, especially in a fight where you're fighting a guy like Berlanga, who, to me, I think is a little bit more dangerous on the inside, especially with an uppercut. Shiraz is the kind of guy like mid-range, long range, or he's good when guys are coming straight forward, having them walk into an uppercut. He does have some decent angles. I've seen him do some decent angles before. But overall, I think the ability factor is, I think he has more that he can do. I don't think he's as limited, even though he looked very limited in his most recent fight against Carlos Adames. Now, I don't think Shiraz won this fight. Okay? In my opinion, I do believe there was a robbery because I don't think there was any way that Shiraz even draw on the fight, I remember watching it live with you guys, and I think the majority of us thought it was going to be a draw, just because Turkey was so supportive of Shiraz and going into his quarter and telling him to pick it up, step it up during a fight. Turkey, him being so involved in the fights, like in that moment, it just was a bad look, and I think it actually makes Shiraz look bad because it looks like he's being protected at this point. And even though this fight is in New York and everything, and I know it's in the backyard of Edgar and all that, I still feel like if this were to be a close fight, Turkey has already expressed how much he wants Berlanga to win this fight, and the favoritism behind that because he has plans with Berlanga. So with that being said, even though this should be an even match, Berlanga to me is the guy that has to do more. And again, Turkey's not the judge, but I think that's the way Berlanga should have to look at it because Adames to me won the fight. I don't think he dominated the fight. I know there were some really dry spots in the fight, but I feel like the rounds where Carlos didn't do that much, but I still gave him the edge. They probably gave all of those close rounds to Shiraz because there was so many periods where he states that he had a hand injury. I remember seeing a picture of his left hand, his lead hand, where he was throwing a lot of jabs. But in that fight, I didn't see him throwing a lot of right hands at all in that fight, except maybe like the first round or two. I don't really know how to think about that because I actually predicted Carlos Adames to win. And I do think Carlos Adames is skill-wise, I think he's better than Berlanga. But Berlanga is much bigger. And he's a bigger puncher, for sure. So the things you got to look at is, I don't think Hamzah Sheeraz won his last fight. Okay. And now he's going up to 168 to fight someone who I don't believe is more skilled, but I think hits harder and is much bigger and is much durable at the newer weight that Hamzah is going to. Question you got to ask is, how does Hamzah look in his first fight at 168? I don't think he's fighting the best fighter at 168, but there are definitely fighters there that's still like not really that proven, you know what I mean? But there are more proven fighters there, I think Mbili is a little bit more proven than Berlanga is at the moment. Diego Pacheco, I still would put him probably not in the same space, maybe Berlanga a little bit more as far as experience. So you come to a division, you got Cuban fighters out there that's just not going to get opportunities, It's still a lot of guys at 168 that's really not proven. So it's a good time to move up for sure. And it's a good challenge because this is definitely a winnable fight. And I believe Shiraz might be a slight favorite to win. But with him, I don't think he won his last fight. And Turkey being so pro Shiraz makes it seem like there's a protection part of it, that makes me feel like I don't like the fact that Bradley Skeet, and I said this in another video, Bradley Skeet fight where the point was deducted. I know it was a tough fight. He hit Skeet while he was down. Pretty ugly fight. I didn't get to see the fight because they completely wiped it out off the internet, Stuff like that, I don't like, Also, these opponents in between, like Adames and Austin Ammo Williams, Tyler Denny had nothing for him, right? Tyler Denny got hit first punch and he went down. He got caught with a hook early, went down. Liam Williams is another fighter where, yeah, we know of him because he's been in there with a lot of fighters, right? But really was just no match. It's just a name of somebody that was pretty washed up at that point. Never really was that good. Had a lot of heart, but he has these fights where when you look at Shiraz's resume, I actually think he's the better KO artist. Even though Berlanga went on that streak early in the first round, I think Hamzah, when he's knocking out fighters, I think he's a better finisher than Berlanga. Berlanga was overly aggressive, knocking out scrubs. Whereas Shiraz boxed and stopped him, without really being so aggressive. So that goes to what I was saying about the ability. I think Shiraz is the better boxer, slightly. I think Berlanga has the edge in experience, slightly. Plus, he's the true 168 pounder, where Shiraz is just getting up there. Now, that may not mean a damn thing. And I'm going to tell you why. Shiraz at 6'4". Shiraz is at the height where he might even finish, depending on how his career go and how much weight he gains. He can easily finish his career as a 175 or even a cruiserweight. You know what I mean? He might actually feel stronger. And at 26 years old, he's only 26. He might be stronger at this division. He might be, his punch resistance might be a little better, But we can nitpick about every single thing about these two, all the way through their resumes, through what we've seen in the ring with these two. I mean, it's really, really, really tough because I think when we do look at the resumes and the flaws we've seen in their games, and the struggles they had in certain fights, is really equal. It's really, really equal. On top of that, I think either fighter can actually win this fight by KO. And it could be late, it can be early. I can see Berlanga running into a 1-2. Easy. And getting caught, with a good shot. It could be early like it was against Canelo. It could be later like it was against Caceres. Because even in the Jason Quigley fight, right, which is a good fight. Like, I sat down and watched that entire fight maybe like 2 days ago. And I saw that Quigley was actually coming back in some of those later rounds. I know he got dropped in like the final round or something, but, Berlanga, he kind of goes into cruise control, and that's when he starts getting hit a little bit more. Remind me of the Caceres fight. So I can see Hamzah catching him early or catching him late once he starts to slack off on the defense. But I can see Berlanga catching him early or later as well. Because Hamzah's been down before. Austin Williams hurt him in the second round, hurt him again in the fourth round. And even though I don't rate Berlanga over Carlos Adames skill-wise, I like a little bit what Berlanga has to bring over Austin Williams. And I know Austin is a southpaw, but Austin is like, he's a strong puncher. He has good hands, fast hands. But he was just like straight in and out. You know what I mean? Hands down, very easy for Shiraz to hit. I don't think Berlanga is as easy to hit as Austin Williams. So I would rate Berlanga a little bit higher than Williams stylistically, at least for Shiraz. Maybe not overall, but I would rate him below Adames. The only thing that didn't work with Adames is that he couldn't hurt Shiraz. But Shiraz couldn't hurt him neither. And even though he claims to be injured and that affected the fight, I think that his confidence was hurt a little bit because Adames was taking his punches very early. And you know Shiraz was knocking out guys within 2 rounds for a long time. Adames was just walking through those punches and shaking his head and kept coming forward. He came forward the entire fight. One thing I did learn about Shiraz is that he can move his feet. All right, he's always been pretty flat-footed, not much movement there, but in that fight there was a lot of movement. In fact, it was borderline running. It was running at certain points in that fight. It was a lot of Tom and Jerry in that fight. So in this fight here, I'm having a hard time picking, where I'm gonna go with this fight. I'm gonna end it with this. And you take it as you want. I don't even think I'm going to be making any bets for this particular fight because I'm really not sure. I'm probably going to skip this fight. My mind is telling me Shiraz should win. It is. Originally, I definitely was with Berlanga, but when I started watching both of them, outside of the Adames fight, Shiraz looks more impressive to me. My heart is telling me like I do want Berlanga to win because he's a local guy. But I just feel like I don't trust Shiraz a little bit more. Like I think round by round on points, Shiraz is gonna win. The longer the fight goes, I see Shiraz picking them apart round right. I believe that. I'm actually telling you what I believe. Each round, Shiraz picks them apart. Berlanga just needs one punch. I don't think he should take this fight with that approach. But I think when he hits Shiraz, it's going to change the fight. Even if Shiraz were to get up, it's going to change the game. I think his power would be more effective. Whereas Shiraz, if he were to stop Berlanga, he's just going to stop him by outboxing him and hurting him at some point, putting him down. Berlanga, I've seen him get out. Berlanga, I've seen him continuously take right hands from Canelo. So I trust his heart and his experience a little bit more. But Shiraz, I feel like if he gets caught with a clean right hand for Berlanga, he's going to go down. Whether or not will he continue, that I don't know. And that's where I'm at with this fight. I know it's a long breakdown. And I know I'm not giving you a hard. I normally do 99% of the time. I'm telling you a winner. And this one here, it really could go either way. Because up to this point, any breakdown you've seen me do of these two in the past, I told you I'm not sure about either one of them. And honestly, the way this fight goes, I don't even know whoever the winner is going to make me sure about them moving forward too. And that's how I feel about a lot of those guys at 168. I just don't, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. I think some of those guys like Morrell. Morrell moved up. Benavidez moved up. I know they recently fought. But I was a little bit more solid with those guys. These guys here, I still feel like they need a little bit more time and a little bit more experience before I start saying that they're going to beat other top fighters in the division. I got to see it. So maybe that'll help me after this fight, but I feel like you can really go either way. pick your poison here, because I'm not sure about neither one of these guys. And that's my honest truth to it. All right. Listen, I just want to say, I want to end off this video. I went some days without making content. Check out the Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda video I did. I'm gonna make another quick video about that fight before the fight. Also, there's a couple other good fights on this card. I'm gonna try to do quick prediction videos when I get some time. It's my birthday tomorrow, so I'm gonna try to squeeze in time to do it. But I will be live both Friday and Saturday nights to cover these fights. All right, but I will be picking some times to drop some content during the next day or two on those other fights. And I'm talking about the Puello fight and the Dave Morrell fight. All right, so just give me a chance. I just got to do some quick film study. But yeah, I actually was in North Carolina for like the last 4 days, so I just got back home and spending some family time. All right, so do watch the breakdown with Zepeda and Shakur. Also, my breakdown of Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano is also up. If you didn't check those out, check those out. All right, I will see you guys this weekend, and I got more content on the way before that. Peace.